I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom Health ongoing series of empowerment. Yeah, empowerment of you for your health and your wellness. As opposed to what the medical industrial complex wants, which is their empowerment and you being sick and having to use their system. Their system that's comprised of big pharma, big medicine, big insurance, and big government comprised of technocrats who have limited to no functional medical knowledge, but are there to cater to their owners, the syndicate. They're having a big confab meeting, actually, as we speak, in Davos, Switzerland. And who was invited? Was Dr. Peter Glidden, one of the top, if not the top naturopathic physician in the world, invited to that? Nope. How about Dave Janda, the guy that people look at around the world as having a prominence for at least the last 30-some years in prevention and healthcare cost containment and healthcare policy? Nope. Why? Because we preach empowerment of every person in the world for their health and wellness, and we speak about the ills of big pharma's agenda, big medicine's agenda, big government's agenda, and they don't want that. But boy, I'll tell you, the CEO of Pfizer, the CEO of Moderna, the CEO of the insurance companies around the globe, the government bureaucrats, the technocrats, they're all there in that little powwow to determine, well, the, quote, future. And what Dr. Glidden and I have done with this series is try to create a future for you that is one of health and wellness, of education, empowerment, and a future that is not dependent on the sick industry. Today, Dr. Glidden and I are going to discuss a very important topic that big pharma and big medicine and big insurance and big government don't want you to know about, and that is the importance of the 90 essential nutrients. Now, for those of you not familiar with Dr. Glidden, he's one of the top, as I mentioned earlier, top naturopathic physicians in our country, if not the world. Phenomenal researcher, phenomenal clinician, and also a phenomenal author. His website, Dr. Glidden, Glidden.com. He has written 2 books, Everybody is Sick, and I Know Why, and Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine, that are based, you can get them on his website and also at Amazon. It is my honor to bring to our forefront, our freedom stage and platform, Dr. Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, David. It's a real honor for me, honestly, to be in the same room with you. So I appreciate it very much.
So, Pete, I mentioned in your introduction, you have a wide variety of expertise, whether it's on the taking care of people on the front line front, research front, authorship front. You've written 2 books, as I've mentioned. Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine is Everybody is Sick and I Know Why. So Everybody is Sick and I Know Why. Why that book? Why that title?
Every time somebody mentions the title of that book to me, I chuckle a little bit because it sounds a little tongue-in-cheek, but it wasn't meant to be. Mm-hmm. And this underlines a very important point. We break it down, right? So from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. In 1912, through the influence of the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, Congress granted the American Medical Association exclusive control over who could and who couldn't practice medicine. It was a hostile takeover of the medical marketplace, ensconcing the medical doctors and the pharmaceutical industry into first place, effectively kicking everybody else off of the bus of medicine and labeling them as quacks. Mm-hmm. So for 110 years now, in the United States, and quite frankly, all industrialized nations, we have grown up inside of a medical monopoly, which is so overarching that most people are not even aware that it's there, right?
True.
And they've done a really good job with the PSYOP warfare that they did, because there is this background hum in which people are subconsciously led to believe that the medical doctors and the pharmaceutical industry own the secret decoder ring to all things medical.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else is a back of the bus quack with substandard, dangerous training. Don't go to see those guys, only go to the medical doctors. And that, of course, is number one. It's propaganda. It's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Many different types of medicine. They're all good for different things. But the only medicine that we have really any access to here in the United States is MD-directed big pharma medicine. Now,
Mm-hmm.
since we've been under the exclusive control of this medical monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
life expectancy is getting shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's has skyrocketed. Autism has skyrocketed. Just as many people get heart disease now as they did 50 years ago. Medical doctors can save people from 3 or 4 or 5 heart attacks, but they're not preventing them from getting heart disease in the first place. Type 2 diabetes is rising, arthritis is rising, obesity is rising, blood pressure issues are rising. We are getting sicker
Mm-hmm.
as a nation,
Mm-hmm.
as this one-trick pony big pharma medical juggernaut has been in place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that escapes everybody, because nobody is even aware that there's a monopoly, for goodness sakes. So the reason that everybody is sick is that medical doctors are not trained in healthcare. They're trained in disease management.
In sick
Through the
care.
use-
In sick care.
Sick care.
Which is why, when I launched in my research in prevention in 1984 and have continued to this day, it was never supported
Yeah.
by the powers that be in medicine. In fact, it was actually, if anything, speed bumps were continually put in my way.
Because it goes against the agenda. It goes against the
Mm-hmm.
the worldview,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
And the financial view
yeah, let's not forget that.
drives it all.
A patient cured is a customer lost.
Right.
So the reason that we are getting sicker individually and also nationally is because we're going to the wrong type of doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, MD-directed allopathic medicine, as you are a perfect example of, is excellent for surgery when it's necessary, military field medicine,
Mm-hmm.
trauma care, the complications of childbirth, and maybe 50% dentistry. That's the wheelhouse of conventional medicine. And the things that they can do, that you were able to do in the surgical theater, unbelievably, really great stuff, really great. Too bad you're hobbled so much by, the governance of the hospital and the insurance mandates, whatever. That's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
But the conditions that most people go to the doctor for most of the time, depression and lack of energy and anxiety and depression and arthritis and heartburn and whatever, right? The things that people go to the doctor's office for. Conventionally trained MDs have no idea, number one, what causes these conditions. And number two, have no idea how to cure them. Number three, don't even attempt to cure them. And number four, simply throw drugs at it, which manage the problem at best.
Mm-hmm.
And then people become more dependent on the drugs. They suffer the side effects of the drugs. Then they need another drug to deal with the side effects of the drugs. People go from the frying pan into the fire. And then the last, 10 years of their life, it's a revolving door to the emergency room. If they can remember where the emergency room is, if they don't have Alzheimer's.
Right.
It's a crap show, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that it exists, and myself and my colleagues are the only people that have any perspective on this, because we treat people with all of these conditions successfully.
Mm-hmm.
So from our perspective, well, you should attempt to cure these things because frequently you can, in fact, do that.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody in the mainstream has any experience with my type of medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or the clinical applications of acupuncture. Nobody has, the people that do have that experience, they're not speaking out about it like I am. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of alternative medical practitioners are scared.
Right.
They're scared of the pharmaceutical industry. They're scared of the Federal Trade Commission. There was a chiropractor. just a couple days ago, the Federal Trade Commission is suing for $1 trillion+ because he recommended people take vitamin D and something else during COVID. They're suing him for $1 trillion, right? It's nonsense. But this is what we're up against now inside of a monopoly. So that is a very long-winded way of saying that the reason that we are getting sicker as a nation is because we're going to the wrong type of doctor for our health conditions. We just are. And the only reason that we do that is because of the monopoly. So people need to understand what they can do to actually support and promote their body's built-in, God-given ability to fix itself, which each of our bodies have. And they're the fundamental first step in this arena is filling your body's nutritional tank up with the raw materials that it needs in order to support and promote its health. The same way that you put oil in your car, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, put air in the tires, right? You need to do the same thing to the human body. But you weren't trained in that.
No.
Nobody's trained in that except members of my profession. And most people don't even know how to pronounce naturopathy, let alone have any working idea of what it is, let's be honest. I mean, my profession right now, only licensed and regulated in 22 states. What the hell does that mean? That the laws of science change when you cross the state line? Oh, and by the way, it's a felony to practice naturopathic medicine in 2 states, Florida, I think, and one of the Carolinas, which is nuts when you think about it. But this is the situation that we find ourselves in. So I'm here to tell your listening audience that the human body has a remarkable ability to fix itself, and
to keep itself well.
And keep itself well. And you cannot drug your way into health. And look, like I've said a million times, thank God for insulin. Thank God for lidocaine. Thank God for general anesthesia. Thank God for the sterile technique. There's room for that, right? But there's room for what myself and my colleagues do as well. Our voices need to be heard. Now, because, there's such a limited number of naturopathic doctors in the world who actually know what they're doing, and hundreds of millions of people who are sick and struggling and suffering, we've put together a tremendous amount of information that's available at Operation Freedom Health. That's also available for a deeper dive at drglidden.com in order to educate people about what they can do to slowly extract themselves from the pharmaceutical medical mousetrap. And the simple steps often that people can take to get themselves into the game of healing. And the first thing to do in this regard is fill your body's nutritional tank up with the 90 essential nutrients.
So, Pete, break down those 90 essential nutrients. What are they comprised of?
60 minerals, things like calcium and sulfur and zinc and phosphorus. Everybody knows what minerals are, but there's a whole bunch of minerals that are necessary that people have never even heard of, like vanadium and chromium. What the hell are those, right? 60 minerals, 16 vitamins. Everybody's heard of vitamins. 12 amino acids, and 2 essential fatty acids for a grand total of 90. Now, an essential nutrient is something that your body needs in order to work, but it cannot make. Your body can't make calcium, needs it. Body can't make vitamin B like baby, needs it. Body can't make the amino acids, needs them, right? So these things have to be imported into the body on a regular basis. And interestingly enough, and this again brought to you by the medical monopoly, in the 1930s, the United States Department of Agriculture gave a report to Congress that the number of minerals in the soil on United States farms are dramatically reducing. Not just reducing, but dramatically reducing.
And that was 90 years ago.
Yeah, 90 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, minerals are 2/3 of the body's nutrient needs. 66%. So if you remove 66% of the body's nutrients from the food that you're eating, what do you think's going to happen to your overall health?
It's going to crash and burn.
And that's exactly what's happened. But because of the medical monopoly, people are socialized into believing, oh, you have a bad gene. Can't be the doctor's fault. can't be the scientist's fault because we know everything. It's got to be your fault. You've got the bad gene. That's why you got asthma. That's why you got eczema. That's why you got type 2 diabetes. And people bought it hook, line, and sinker because in the education of a United States citizen, nobody's smarter than a fifth grader, quite frankly.
So Pete, compliance, people doing what they're supposed to do and recommended they do is an issue. So people say 90, I don't want to take, and I understand this, I don't want to take 90 pills a day to get my essential nutrients. Okay, so educate our listeners on the foundation pack that we have available at OperationFreedomHealth.com, that it comprises the 90 essential nutrients and how it's not 90 bottles of pills that they take. Now, full disclosure, purchase of the products that we discuss on Operation Freedom Health and in this video series, purchase of the products on Operation Freedom Health do support our platform. Full disclosure. But Pete, you and I take the foundation pack every day and have for years. Yet we don't take 90 pills a day. Educate our listeners on the foundation pack.
Well, we're not stupid. The people in the nutritional supplement industry, some of them at least, have pretty substantial IQs. And we're also street smart and pragmatic. Mm-hmm. So we have put together a really fantastic formulation of the 90 essential nutrients, which is sold in a package of 4 different nutritional supplements. Beyond Tangy Tangerine is a multivitamin, multi-mineral, and it's got some probiotics and a bunch of other things in it as a powder. We've got the plant-derived minerals, which is a liquid. We've got a calcium and a magnesium supplement, which is a liquid. And we have essential fatty acids in a gel cap, fish oil, in a gel cap that was put together under a nitrogen blanket. So there's no oxygen in the cap. It's just nitrogen, so the oil doesn't oxidize and go bad. So these 4 things, 3 of which are liquids that you mix all together into a nice little health recovery cocktail that you drink every day or have a little bit before bed, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's easy breezy, lemon squeezy, and then you take a couple of the gel caps of the fish oil with a meal, and you're done. And this is a remarkable breakthrough in medical nutrition because, number one, it's all 90 essential nutrients. We're the only ones that are doing that. Everybody else is doing fractionated nutrition.
Okay, well, let's talk about that because people will say, well, I don't think I'm depleted in... maybe of the 90, I don't think I'm depleted in all 90. So why should I take all 90 if I'm not... Well, first of all, how do you know you're not, number one?
Exactly correct.
Right? Oh, well, I eat a healthy diet. I eat organic food. Wait a minute. No, that doesn't cut it. The studies have shown that. So, but educate our listeners, because people say, a friend of mine said, Dave, I think I'm depleted in about 10 of these things, but not 90. And how do you know?
Yeah, number one.
And in fact, and number 2, if we just look at what was presented to Congress 90 years ago, if you were 90 years ago, you weren't getting the appropriate nutritional supplements you needed for a long, healthy life. Long, healthy life. 90 years ago, what do you think it's like now with all the pesticides and herbicides and our ground being depleted?
And so this is the other thing, right? The fundamental foundation of naturopathic philosophy is that the body is inhabited by an intelligent spiritual force, which existed before the body was born and which persists after the human body dies. As a matter of fact, at the moment of death, when the spirit or the vital force or the soul or whatever you want to call it, in whatever religion you're comfortable with, leaves the body, what happens to the body? It disintegrates.
Yeah.
Falls apart.
Yep.
It's the same biochemicals. So what's the difference? Well, Elvis has left the building. The spiritual force inside the human body, which brings light to the eyes, is running the show. Mm-hmm. It's keeping everything together. It's making everything work. It is the intelligence of the spirit which made our bodies grow themselves all by themselves from a single cell into us. It wasn't genetics that did that. It was the vital force of the human body. And we argue that the vital force is intelligent and that your body knows what to do Your body knows how to fix itself. Your body knows how to manage itself. But your body can't make calcium.
Right.
Your body can't make any of the essential 90s. These things have to go down the hatch. So rather than do expensive and complicated blood work, which would tell us exactly, kind of, sort of, maybe, the science isn't that great, by the way, which nutrients you're deficient in on Monday would be different than the nutrients you're deficient in on Tuesday. It would change all of the time. And there's no need to do that. Instead, we trust the wisdom of the body. So we give the body everything that it needs in a nice, comprehensive, holistic package deal.
That's absorbable.
That's absorbable, and we let the body figure it out. And this is a superior way to do it. It's not the fractionated way to do it, as was writ large during COVID with, massive amounts of zinc and massive amounts of vitamin D, whatever. What's better than that is to give your body good amounts of everything that it needs. And then when you're stressed out by a virus or a bacteria, extra zinc, extra whatever.
Right. You supplement it.
You need the foundation, though. Everything needs to be there. Because why? Because that's what the body needs, and the body knows how to use that. And it's a symphony. Everything works together. There's ramifications that this biochemical system over here has with this one over here. And if all of the pieces of the puzzle are there, well, then the chances are high that the body's going to put the puzzle together. But if you're missing half of the pieces,
right,
it's not going to happen. So this is my request, my plea, because you wouldn't believe the things that myself and my colleagues have seen people recover from. You wouldn't believe it. This isn't a cure-all, be-all, end-all for all human suffering. It's not. That we fail, but we succeed more often than not. And this is a very sophisticated, science-based, clinically verified approach. And look, if you're in the listening audience and you haven't tried the foundation pack yet, well, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what you need to do in order to take that step. Take that step. Slam these doors and kick these tires. Because you don't know what you're missing, number one. And number two, your body needs this stuff. And the chances are high that after your body has this stuff imported into it, things are going to change positively for you. But you won't know until you do it.
Well, and I'm living proof of that, Pete.
Well,
right,
100%.
Right. I had underlying arthritis issues to the point where it was no longer being covered by Tylenol, prescription-grade anti-inflammatory, Advil, on top, and the docs were talking about having me take a second prescription-grade anti-inflammatory. And for years, you'd been telling me, Dave, this is not a lack of anti-inflammatories why you're hurting more. This is a nutrition issue.
It's a breakthrough in understanding.
And being a hard-headed orthopedic surgeon, I'm like, well, okay, Pete, but, Pete. Yeah. And finally, when they came in with the second wanted to put me on I'm thinking, this is going to kill my kidneys. And I decided reluctantly, I'll admit it, reluctantly, years ago, I decided to listen to Peter Glidden, Dr. Peter Glidden. And I went on the foundation pack knowing full well that it was not going to make a significant difference.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Within a month, no Advil, no Tylenol, no prescription-grade anti-inflammatory, no need for a second. And I went back to my friends who were trying to take good care of me because of their training. There was nothing ill, and they said, you're really getting around really good. Well, I guess there's no need for that second anti-inflammatory, and it looks as though it took a long time, but it looks as though, the stuff we've been putting you on finally kicked in. And I said to them, I'm not taking anything that you have suggested, and this is what I did. And they looked at me and they said, "You're kidding, right?" No, I'm not. And it was not only an education process for myself, it was not only an education process for those around me. Because my wife would say, "Hey, you're outside for 4 hours doing stuff, and I don't hear any moaning, I don't see any groaning, and I don't see you kind of hobbling in."
Yeah.
And it was an education process for my, if you will, brethren in the medical industry who had the same training of nutritional issues that I did, which was as close to zero as you can get.
Yep.
Right? My nutritional training, I mentioned this before and I'll just say it again, was in my first year of medical school, where they spoke about vitamin A, and that if I ever ate a liver from a polar bear or the unripe fruit of the ackee plant, I could be seriously injured and die from hypervitaminosis A.
Wow.
Okay, that was it, Pete. No, and that's not exact. That was it.
Yeah.
And this is why you're the doctor that you are going to, or if MD, for example, is not a bad person. Who's not a willfully uneducated person. Right. Jumped through all the hoops, took all the board exams. Pete, on all the board exams I ever took, National Board Part 1, National Board Part 2, National Board Part 3, my specialty boards in orthopedic surgery, there was never one question on nutrition. Okay. So, but your doc doesn't know this.
Right.
And it's not, in a way, it's their fault, but not really.
Not really.
Not really. Because they've been told that this is not important.
Right.
There's so many unimportant things you could waste your time on. Don't go there.
Right.
And who's telling them that are the people that run these medical schools that have endowed chairs from pharmaceutical companies.
100%.
So it's easy to blame your doc. I get it. And you can a little bit.
Yeah.
But not to make excuses for them. Yeah. But yes, should they have taken the time and opened their eyes and said, "Hey, look, man, I missed this boat." Jeez.
Well, I mean, we could say the same thing about the differing political parties, right?
Right.
That's just an endless rabbit hole.
Right.
The point is well taken, though, that my profession, licensed and regulated,
mm-hmm.
primary care,
mm-hmm.
medicine,
mm-hmm.
lots of education,
mm-hmm.
and clinical experience with this stuff over here. You guys have lots of education and clinical experience with this stuff over here. But the problem is, because of the medical monopoly and the pharmaceutical influence and
right.
the agenda
right.
that's been in place, the people over here are socialized to believe, well, if I wasn't taught it in medical school, it's simply not valid.
That's right.
Right? Because I was taught by the best and the brightest minds in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest problem, that the education of an MD or a PhD lends people to think inside of a closed-minded box instead of embracing the scientific method and examining things objectively to determine whether they're true or not.
And the operative words there are hive mind.
Correct. 100% hive mind. 100%. I mean, we're seeing that writ large now with this.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And all of the bad stuff that's finally coming out about this that we were talking about years ago.
Right.
And that a lot of people in the mainstream are still in denial about.
Right.
Because of the hive mind.
Hive mind. Important 2 words to keep in mind, pun intended, this coming year, because I believe you're going to see more and more of hive mind coming out on a number of different planes. And this is why what Peter and I do with this presentation series is so important. There's no other series anywhere on the internet where a naturopathic physician and an allopathic physician, an ND and an MD, get together and discuss these issues. You see, the syndicate wants Pete to hate me and me to do battle with Pete. Right. And in the process, you lose. Right. And this is why they suppress notifications as it relates to this series. This is why they give you false view counts, because they don't want you to think that this is popular. It's not being shared. The view counts are bogus. We know that for a fact. We know they're not doing the notifications, and this is where you come in. You take this information, you go to operationfreedomhealth.com, you go to drglidden.com. You gain more information, more knowledge, and you have access to the products there. And then you share this information, Bucket Brigade of Truth, Bucket Brigade of Health, actually.
I like that.
Right? You share this information to anyone and everyone you know, because the more people that are educated, the more people that become empowered, and the sooner we end this reign of terror, death, and destruction of your health and wellness by the syndicate. Fact. drglidden.com.
Operation Freedom. Up to here, and I'm just not going to take it anymore.
Well, that's it.
That is it. And, you know, for those that know the truth, no explanation is necessary. And for those that don't, no explanation will suffice.
Right.
So for goodness sakes, ladies and gentlemen, go to Operation Freedom Health, purchase a foundation pack, take it, and see how you feel. And the story that Dave reported, I have a live, as part of my subscription service at drglidden.com, I do 2 hours of live chat every week with my subscribers, people from all over the world. I did a marathon at the beginning of the month. I had people from Vietnam. I had people from Australia, had people from the United Kingdom, people from Ireland, people from all over the U.S. and Canada, people from the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, people all over, people from Mexico, all over the world, coming and telling stories just like Dave's story. And it's all spontaneous, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pre-do anything with it. There's no filters for my live stuff. People show up and I read what they say. It's just like that. There's no filters. It's completely unbiased. And more often than not, people who take my generic advice, this is generic advice. This is not a doctor-patient relationship. Mm-hmm. This is, look, take these essential nutrients because your body needs them. Mm-hmm. Just that's it. Mm-hmm. And often just that simple step makes a big difference. You don't, honest to God, folks, you don't know what you're missing. Slam these doors and kick these tires, please, because your health depends on it.
Pete, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. Folks, you can gain more information by going to operationfreedomhealth.com. You can gain more information by going to drglidden.com. We hope you'll take the time and effort to do that and pass this information on to anyone and everyone you know and love. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.